In the last manga dump, I mentioned a type of setting in mangas that has recently shown up, the hunter setting. This setting is when dungeons, or towers, or interdimensional portals, sometimes also called dungeons, full of monsters appear in the modern day. Modern weapons only ever prove useful to a degree, and as monsters begin to push their way into civilization, humans with powers begin to appear as well. These people push back the tide of monsters and often form guilds, hunter guilds. These hunter guilds additionally add ranks to classify the potency of the hunter or their abilities. It may vary slightly, but generally it follows letter grades. From lowest to highest, ranks usually go F, E, D, C, B, A, and S. Sometimes people put an SS class or an S plus or something at the end, or have E be the lowest instead of F. Perhaps the most popular and definitely responsible for the proliferation of these stories is solo leveling. Now there are so many titles. The hunter setting is a genre rife with mangas and has a lot to offer. Sung Jin-woo is an E-rank hunter and is known as the world's weakest. Sung Jin-woo can barely qualify as an awakened and can barely be called a hunter. Thanks to his E-rank and quite literally being at the bottom of the rung, he has earned the title the world's weakest. Even so, he still enters dungeons because he has to earn money somehow. The latest dungeon he entered was a D-rank dungeon, and the party he was with was more than enough to tackle it. Of course, while the others were engaging in combat, Jin-woo was being healed in the rear. After clearing the dungeon, the party finds an entrance to what they thought was the boss room. The party of hunters decide to vote on whether or not to proceed. Of course, the last vote ends up with Jin-woo. Despite the risk, he needs to earn money somehow, so just one more time, and that was his first mistake. The party enters the boss room, and in it are a bunch of stone statues, some holding weapons, others holding instruments, and one giant statue on a stone throne. As they look at the statue of an angel holding a tablet, they see some text. First, worship the Lord. Second, praise the Lord. And third, prove your faith. Those who do not follow the commandments will never return alive. As they finish reading, the door closes, and as one of them goes to open it, the statues by the door come to life. Jin-woo is quick on the uptake, unfortunately. The party remembers the commandments. First, worship the Lord. Praise the Lord is a bit more complicated, unfortunately. And that was Jin-woo's second mistake. Jin-woo figures out that the statues with instruments are the safe zone, and Jin-woo barely makes it to one of the statues, but at a cost. As they are trying to stop the bleeding and heal Jin-woo's leg, the Lord summons an altar. He needs a sacrifice for the third commandment. Prove your faith. Everyone gathers around the altar, and the door opens. However, all the statues start moving as well. One by one, some of the hunters start to make a break for the door, and strangely, the statues by the door don't attack. Eventually, only 3 are left. Seeing as Jin-woo has lost his leg, he decides to be the last one remaining and sends the other 2 off. And that was Jin-woo's third and final mistake. However, right before he dies, time freezes, and he is greeted by a message. You have completed all the necessary requirements of the secret quest, Courage of the Weak. You have earned the right to become a player. Will you accept? Jin-woo doesn't want to die, so naturally he accepts. Welcome, player. With that, the world's weakest hunter wakes up. Solo leveling is popular for a reason. I'm not sure if it's the origin of this type of setting, but it's certainly one of its biggest titles. The story of the world's weakest hunter slowly becoming the world's strongest is amazingly satisfying. The battles, the level ups, and even the simple slice of life moments are so beautifully drawn, any one of them can be posters. The hook is amazing, and as the plot progresses, the lore only gets richer. I don't have much else to say other than I can't wait for the anime to come out. I give solo leveling a solid 10 out of 10 skulls. This is Yu Il-shin, and he is a writer. However, due to his frequent hiatuses and writer's block, he never manages to finish the next chapter. While trying to write, he gets distracted by his phone as usual, but as he unlocks it, he finds an app he's never seen before.
Godmaker.
As he opens the app, he is shown a pixelated cave with a single ant. He taps the ant and it dies. Simultaneously, a coin pops out. As messages appear on his phone, he realizes that he must have awakened as a hunter. Immediately, he goes to his local testing facility and gets evaluated. Surely enough, he did awaken, only as a G-rank awakener. He's basically no different from a normal human. He goes home and passes the day playing his new game because he might as well. The next morning, Yu Il-shin finds that his app has a message giving him access to the God's shop. He finds the items in the shop to be random letters and text, but the shop moves on its own and suggests for him to buy something. He does so and goes completely blind. He scrambles for his phone and accidentally stubs his toe, and after a bit of pain, his vision comes back. As he looks at his phone, the items are now legible, and he buys the only thing he can really afford from the store. After he does, he gets a call from his editor. It seems writing about his experience with the ants was extremely interesting. After promising to write another chapter, he goes back to the game in order to live said chapter. That night, Yu Il-shin has a strange dream, a dream where ants plot to get their revenge. The story has such an interesting hook. However, contrary to the grandiose name of God Store, the main character is never really overpowered. It's very easy to see this happen in hunter settings, as many stories feature genius S-rank hunters or something of the sort. This story has a nice charm to it since the main character is kind of a ditz. He's lazy, slovenly, and not expertly intelligent, which makes it really fun to see him stumble through life and his problems. Not to mention the ants. The ants slowly start to gain more and more personality as the MC starts to interact with the more intelligent ones. The ants have such cool designs and end up being much cooler than I initially anticipated. I give this manga a solid 8 out of 10 skulls. Kim Gongja is jealous, because in this world of hunters, he is at the very bottom as a normal person. So, all he can do is be jealous of people like the Flame Emperor, the #1 S-class hunter. While watching an interview of the Flame Emperor, the reporter asks him to tell his fans one thing to help them succeed. Gongja desperately listens, and the Emperor cruelly answers, "Those who will succeed, but don't get in my way even if you do succeed, or I'll kill you." Gongja shuts his laptop and is overcome with grief and envy as he cannot help but feel that he was being ignored along with the reporter. In his despair, he is granted a skill. However, where other people are granted skills for their talent, achievements, or personalities, Gongja is given a skill for his envy. However, he doesn't care, he gladly accepts the skill. It allows him to copy someone else's skill, however, he must be killed by them in order to do so. Needless to say, he isn't happy and goes to drown his sorrows at a bar. As he's leaving, he happens to see the Flame Emperor confronting another S-class hunter. He interrogates the hunter and cruelly burns them to a crisp. Gongja's head spins as he finds out his hero is nothing more than a murderer. He runs away but is still caught by the Emperor, and in the end, he too is burnt to a crisp. However, in his death, a message pops up, and his skill activates, and amongst all the skill cards he sees, he picks the S-ranked skill. Gongja suddenly wakes up and is back at the start of the day. Only one thing is different. He has the Flame Emperor's skill, the ability to return 24 hours before you died. I love this manga. It's especially well written, and it really shows in the later arcs. I love how well crafted the mystery of the tower is and how the dungeons themselves are given meaning. As we go up the tower, different floors present different trials. However, those trials don't feel like they're coming from nowhere, nor do they feel random. In this manga, what really shines to me is the writing. I mean, just look at this. If the sun represents life, then the shadows represent suffering. The outline of each human as they live their life is separate, but their pain overlaps again and again. Thus, humans are not one because they are alive, they are one because of suffering. If you say you will share pain with someone, you are saying you will be with that person for a lifetime. Therefore, those who are hurt by everyone only want to be with everyone. Gongja. People don't only decide who they leave scars on, they also decide whose scars to wear. The common people you are trying to save will never be good. The crowd you have saved will never be honorable. And the one you love will never be perfect. Even so, if you want to be hurt by everyone, think about how they scratch you with their fingernails, how they will hurt you even when they hug you tightly. Life is pain, but that is only human suffering. Definitely stealing that character for D&D. I give this manga a profound 9 out of 10 skulls. This tale, unlike the previous ones, doesn't start in the modern day. Instead, it starts in a wuxia setting and is the supposed final resting place of the heavenly demonic cult leader. Again, supposed. While his body is there, his spirit is disconnected. For some reason, while practicing his martial arts and astral projecting, he gets stuck and is unable to re-enter his own body. What's worse, he can't even interact with the physical realm since he's just a spirit. Suddenly, a black void appears in front of him, and like a whirlpool, it threatens to suck the cult leader in. Despite his resistance, it's futile, as his martial arts are useless now that he's a spirit. After being sucked in, he pops out of the other side and into Hunter Hyunsu's apartment. Hyunsu can see the cult leader, and naturally the cult leader is curious about his new surroundings. However, as he's exploring, his spirit is forcibly dragged back as soon as he gets too far. Hyunsu has no time to deal with this right now and leaves to go on a dungeon raid he is scheduled for. Immediately after entering the portal, the hunters are ambushed and Hyunsu quickly finds himself in a tight spot. It seems that the cult leader can also interact with these monsters, however even that is limited as his ki dissipates, so does that ability. After rescuing him a few times, Hyunsu is coached by the cult leader on how to fight the monsters in front of him. By some miracle, he manages to defeat the monster and awakens an ability. His ability is listening to instructions. As he survives and exits the dungeon, he is harassed by a hunter who picks on supporters. However, his listening to instructions ability proves to be immediately useful as the cult leader once again coaches Hyunsu. Dodging, however, is only the first step, as Hyunsu is instructed to launch a counterattack. It's an easy one-hit KO. After today, Hyunsu decides to kinda shamelessly ask to be the disciple of the heavenly demonic cult leader. And after a bit of negotiating, again kinda shamelessly, he manages to convince the master to take him in as a student. He bows and officially becomes the disciple of the heavenly demon. I'm a sucker for wuxia, and I love stories about the heavenly demon or the heavenly demonic cult. Even in SS Class Revival Hunter, they feature the heavenly demon or the leader of the heavenly demonic cult. And true to the vibe of the heavenly demonic cult, they are OP and ruthless. I would give this a solid 7 out of 10 skulls. Lee Ho-jae is a former pro gamer, and now he's stuck in the tutorial. However, that isn't where this started. In his house while on the internet, Lee Ho-jae is presented with a small screen window. It invites him to the tutorial world. As he taps it, he notices that there are 4 difficulty settings. Naturally, he chooses the hardest difficulty, as he was a former pro gamer. The world goes dark, and he wakes up in a strange white room with a few other people who seem to have gotten there before him. As he talks with the people around him, another message appears in front of him, and he's transported to a room full of weapons. He chooses a sword and shield and is then transported back to the lobby. Eventually, a timer counts down to 0, and each of them are sucked into a portal. As Lee Ho-jae enters the dungeon, he finds that he is quickly out of his league, as an arrow blows off his leg, bringing us to the present day. As he desperately crawls for the exit, another arrow slams into his flank. Right as he is about to faint, he gains a second wind and barely makes it back to the lobby. Unfortunately, as he checks the community board, he finds that he is the only one left in the hell difficulty, meaning everyone else is dead. Out of all the mangas today, this one is definitely the best written. I love the intro. The hook itself is fairly straightforward with no special SSS class this or SSS rank that, but even so, it's the best written of today's mangas. Skip this part for spoilers. I love how twisty the story is, and as we progress through the story, we flip between the protagonist on the lower floors and him on the upper floors. We keep seeing pieces of his memory, and it's tied together so neatly, as later up in the tower it is revealed to be an effect of a doppelganger. However, this doppelganger is not like the traditional ones, as once it infects you, it slowly eats at your memories until it takes you over. Our protagonist is revealed to be infected, and is the reason why we have been flipping through his memories up until this point. The plot hook may be simple, but the writing alone makes this manga worth checking out. I give this an amazing 9 out of 10 skulls. That's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Happy reading!